The South Australian Premier and Opposition Leader have faced off in a sometimes feisty debate 9 days before the state election. Let's go live to our reporter there in Adelaide, Joel Philp, who's just been at the debate. Joel, talk us through what we learned from both leaders.
Well, Kieran, both of the leaders tried to make a pitch for what they saw as the future of the state. The opposition said that he was the leader that had the plan for the state and that it was future-focused. And indeed, he had seen a fairly negative campaign from the Premier so far, so he was doubting whether the Premier did have a vision for what he expected South Australia to be like in the 4 years ahead. Whereas the Premier focused on the achievements that have been done over the past 4 years and said that it wasn't worth taking the risk in heading to Labor, which could break down some of those achievements so far. But a big topic of this election campaign so far has all been about the spending promises of both parties, with the opposition confirming today they've committed $2.7 billion worth of spending so far in the lead up to the election, but they won't be announcing how they are indeed going to fund those promises. The Premier is taking a different approach now. They have already funded via the budget a lot of the promises that they've made in the lead up to this election, so they are claiming to only be spending a fairly small amount of money. Take a listen.
Our policies announced have totaled less than $300 million. The vast majority are already
That's just not true.
Well, I'm sorry. It is 100% true. And
you said you were spending $500 million on health a couple of days ago.
The people of South Australia have got to determine who they trust to manage the budget, manage the economy in South Australia.
Both parties were also asked what they liked about the other, and the opposition leader said that he did like Lot 14, which is a future-focused tech precinct with jobs in areas like defence, space and cyber. He thought that was a good initiative from the Premier, but he says any work-focused policy or jobs-focused policy shouldn't be so narrow-minded. Take a listen.
I think Lot 14 is a good thing. I think that it's important that we seek to continue to move up the value chain when it comes to the types of jobs that we have here in South Australia, and I think that Lot 14 puts our state in good shape to make sure we capitalise on that transformation.
Both of the leaders were also asked what their favourite kind of bread was, and just like the Prime Minister was asked a few weeks ago, how much it costs. Now, both leaders were able to answer how much a loaf of bread costs, but the Premier had an interesting response. Take a listen.
This is a little bit humiliating, but I don't eat bread. I'm on the keto diet. I had a look at the paper the other day. I knew I had to do something, so I'm not on the bread. I'm not on the carbs.
The opposition leader has obviously been recently flouting his physical strength and stamina, going on runs in the park with the community, so that's what that has been a reference to. But in the meantime, the Premier, both parties were also asked about whether they thought it was a success or not so far, the debate. Take a listen to what they had to say.
It's not about winning or losing a debate, it's about winning or losing the election. The people of South Australia have got a very important decision to make on March 19. They can continue with the strongest economy in the country or go back to hard old Labor.
Other people make their own judgments. I think there was only one leader up on the stage today, though, that actually was talking about a plan for the future rather than a blame game about the past. And my assessment is that South Australians want to know which leader, which party actually wants to capitalise on the post-pandemic opportunity.
Kieran, the Liberal Party is a minority government at the moment, and both parties that were asked if indeed independents were elected again at this upcoming election, whether they would work with the independents to form government. The Premier wouldn't be drawn on that. He didn't say that he'd be working with any independents to form a minority government, but the Labor opposition leader said that he was open to the idea.